Hello and welcome to my tutorial on how to cleanly install Windows 7. For this tutorial you will need either a USB drive, this one is a USB drive, with the installation of Windows 7 on it, or a disk, either a CD or a DVD, usually they're a bit on DVDs, with Windows 7 installed on it. In this tutorial I will be using a disk. The process is quite similar for a USB drive. Now, before you start this tutorial, I do recommend that if you have files on the computer you want to save, move them to either an external hard drive like this one, or another USB stick which hasn't got the installation on it. This way you do not lose any data, and I suppose the other alternative is you could use an online storage system like Google Drive, Dropbox, or OneDrive to store files that way. And because of the way OneDrive and all those systems work, they do have PC sync programs which will automatically sync the files on the computer with the online Dropbox, creating a nice little backup system for you. Now, the first things we need to do is check the system requirements. Now I'm going to explain the system requirements at the moment and then show you how to check them for this computer. For a 32-bit system, you will need a 1 GHz processor, 1 GB of RAM, or 16 GB of hard drive space. For a 64-bit system, you will need a 1 GHz processor, same as the 32-bit, but the differences come to you need a 2 GB of RAM and 20 GB of hard drive space. You will need, of course, more depending on what programs you want to install, but that's the way that goes. Now, let's check what system requirements this system has. You turn on the computer, and then this is on all systems. If you want to get to the setup screen, you press F2. This will also give you information on what the system requirements are. As you can see, on this system we are using the mention C521 with BIOS version 118. Now, not every BIOS screen will look like this. Each system will have its own BIOS screen. I believe nearly all Dells look like this one, but I'm sure you can figure out where to go. On this computer, this BIOS screen has two tabs which we can look at, which is processor info and memory info. Some systems would have just one tab, which is system summary at the top, with system at the bottom. So it depends on the system on that. But for this one, we have a AMD Cepron processor, which is 1.8 GHz, so that's good. And the RAM, which is memory, is 3 GB. So we have enough to install the 64-bit Windows, which we are going to install. And now, take this time to either insert your USB drive into a USB port, or put in the disk, which I'm going to do now. If you're wondering why the autofocus on my camera isn't going berserk, that is because I've disabled it for this tutorial, because the last few attempts didn't go too well with the autofocus on. Now that the disk or USB is plugged in, you can exit the setup, and while starting up, you can press F10 and F12 on the keyboard, depending on the system, to enter the boot menu. This computer uses F12 to go to boot menu, but other systems can use different keys. Usually it's either F12 or F10, and on VirtualBox it is escape, but that's VirtualBox. Well, actually not VirtualBox, VMware, same system. In this one, we want to boot from the USB, not from the USB, we want to boot from the disk. if it was a USB, it would probably say USB in this list, USB removable drive, but we want to boot from the onboard CD drive. Sometimes it won't say onboard, sometimes it will just say CD-ROM or DVD-ROM or CD, something like that. So just click the one that is representative of that media type you put in. Ours is the onboard CD drive, so just click enter. Boot from CD, it's any key, sometimes it likes you to do that, so just do it again, and it will then boot from the disk or USB. It will load all the files, and depending on your system, it's depending on how the system will look. And this one is a bit bright, so let me turn the white contrast down a bit. The brightness is a little bit fiddly on this. Take this. That's just the way it works. I can't get the fit. But unfortunately, because you can't see it, you don't know what's going on. There is this bar here is going across the screen. White balance is a bit off at the moment. That's because there's no colour on the screen. Let's see if I can get it to fix this out. No. Oh well. There you go. Now, depending on your system, it can take longer to load. There you go. So, you get to this screen, you will need to select your language and your time format. For me, I live in the United Kingdom, which is here, and the keyboard will automatically switch to whatever country. I am the United Kingdom keyboard, so that's that. Now what we want to do is we want to install Windows. If you want to just repair Windows, you can. We want to install Windows once it gets to the next screen. Right, this is the license agreement from Windows, or from Microsoft for Windows, I suppose. You can read all this if you want. Usually people just go accept and next. Now, in this bit you don't want to upgrade, you want to do custom. And here we have two partitions. Because we're clean installing, we don't want these two partitions, so we go to advanced drive options, or drive options here, which has advanced next to it, I think. And then we want to select them and delete them. It will say, might contain recovery files and stuff. Just click OK, and do that to the other one. OK, there you go. So now you make sure you click, make sure unallocated space is clicked, and then click next. Now, this is the installation files. This is the installation sequence. It is now moving, copying everything from the installation to the drive. So, and this may take a while. This can take I'd say between 10 minutes to an hour, depending on system, hard drive speed, and generally the size of the thing. This one, I'm not sure, I think this is the Windows 7 Home Premium I'm installing. But if you say I'm installing the Windows 7 Ultimate Edition, it will take longer because there are more features to install. Now, this sequence will be sped up. This is going to be sped up, so it won't be real time, but I won't cut anything out. when the installation is complete, it will automatically restart the computer. I click restart now to quickly move it along. Now, when the computer restarts, it will try and boot from CD if it is, or DVD when it is set up like that. But because we didn't click anything, it won't need to. Now, during that boot cycle, you can just eject or take out the disks or USB. You no longer need them. Now that the computer is booting, it will finish off the installation and prompt you, well, it will finish off the installation and will then prompt you to have a few more, a bit more input. During this installation process, it will detect the screen size, or try to. Now, there are a few things that you need to know. When installations, especially a clean version of Windows, is done, some devices and drivers will not be installed. So, to get these installed, either have your computer connected to the internet where Windows will automatically try and fetch the drivers for these devices, or go to the manufacturer's website of the device that you are trying to get working, or use the installation disk which may have come with the device itself. Now, when setup is complete, it will ask you for a username. Usually you can type in your name. For this tutorial, I will use tutorial install, and you can choose a computer name which can do that. Usually there is a limit to how long that the computer name can be. Usually people leave it default. Here you can set up a password. I'm not going to, but I do recommend that you do. Now, this is the update system for people who want to just leave their computer, like just use it every now and again and not have to worry about updates and everything. I recommend selecting the top one. For people who want to manually do the updates, or I say not manually, only know what they're doing and only want certain updates, use important updates only. And if for really advanced users, you can just ask me later and do it that way. For me, I'm using the recommended settings. It should try and automatically find your time zone. If you are in a different time zone or want to set the time zone differently, you can. I'm leaving it where it is because that's where I am. And during that setup, usually it will ask you for a product key. Some Windows 7 installations will allow you to skip asking for the product key section. Now, there are also some other Windows 7 installations which will not give you, they ask you for product keys like this one. This is because we have a license to use, where I am at the moment, for this project is allowed to use Windows as in an open license, which means they don't need to have a license key. They have a license key to install Windows as many times as they like, on as many systems as they like. Yeah. Now, for you, there are various methods of getting around Windows activation, but I do recommend that you officially get it activated, as you can still get that now at the moment anyway, as it doesn't open up your computer to any security risks. Here we are in the Windows itself, and I believe that will conclude our tutorial on installing Windows. As a little after thing, if you are having issues with any drivers or the installation process or anything, you can ask me in the comments, or contact me, and I will contact me on my webpage. I will attempt to help you as much as I can. And if you are having issues with drivers, especially the internet driver, which doesn't always install, if you haven't got it connected to any internet at the moment, try checking the manufacturer of your computer's webpage to see if they have an installation for that there. You will have to use another device, maybe another computer or something else like that, but once you get that up and running, you should be having no problems. That is all, and goodbye.